Hello, and welcome to the Joel Wolfe podcast. There are some big topics facing us today, whether it's parenting, relationships, or questions about where we came from and who God is. Why don't we tackle them together? We're so glad you're with us. Let's get started.
Parenting, I believe, is only 10% about the kid and 90% about us personally. I have never grown so much as a human being as I have since I've had children. So this whole class, as I continue to talk, you're going to be wondering, so how's my ability to control myself? Am I a kind of person that controls other people and not myself? Am I a person that has good defined boundaries? Am I a person that walks with really, really strong character and integrity inside me? You're going to be challenged with this all the time because biblical Christian parenting requires we all serve the same God. We all have the same requirements. We all have to approach our Maker at the same level. Amen? So I think that is the cool thing about this kind of parenting class is that, this is all about, making our children good. But I'm telling you what, along the way, you're going to be challenged. And you're going to be going, you know what, I think I better get my boundaries. Because I'm going to be very, very honest with you. And as you read some of these books, these different books that I'm going to show you, and really encourage you in reading, they are going to tell you that it's going to be very, very difficult for your children to rise up beyond you. As far as your self-control, your control over others, your boundaries, and your character. Now they can. I know of a lot of kids who've grown up in just homes with, drug addict. And you've heard those stories where that kid is just like the most mature kid in the world and they grow up to grow past their parents. But that doesn't happen very often. Usually the children grow up to about where the level those parents are. So once again, you had no idea I was going to be getting on your case here tonight. This is parenting. I got to fix my kids. How do I fix my kids? Well, first of all, we got to fix you. Amen? So you pointed them. There's a bunch of fingers pointing back at you. So you're always going to be challenged as we talk here today and we talk about boundaries and all of that kind of thing. Just how can you grow in them as well? Amen? Okay. So children, now this parenting process that I drew there, where we're trying really hard to kind of pull them in. And let me tell you something, that is the most frustrating process ever. It is so hard. It is painful for our children to have to learn these things. It is very painful for a human being who's very used to getting their way and yelling and screaming and running and going and doing to be told they have to sit still. That is the most painful process in the world. It is a painful, frustrating, difficult, hard process. It is not what they want to do. They do not want to take control of themselves or give up 1 inch of control that they have over you. They do not want to adapt to your requirements. I have news for you. They do not want to roll by your rules. I'm sorry, is that new for you? Is that like new information? Are you shocked? Okay. They do not want to adapt to your requirements. Instead, they want to remain completely in control of you and completely out of control of themselves. And they want to force you to change the requirements. They don't want to change to meet the requirements. They want you to change your requirements. And to the extent that you are willing to change the requirements for the child, letting the child operate in this mode of, I'm not going to be in control of myself, I'm going to control you completely, and I'm going to make you change all of your requirements. I want the candy. No, you can't have candy. I want the candy. You can just see it, right? How many of you guys have lived that? Or whatever it is. That process is extremely painful, yet that process is extremely valuable. That process is the joy that you get to walk your children through. And as you walk them through that process, you will then begin to see the formation of a normal human being emerge out of the chaos. But it is not easy. So the big question for tonight is, how do we do that? How do we do that? And I'm hoping to give you some really, really good practical keys, okay? So let's keep moving on here. So tonight, we're going to talk a lot about control and boundaries. And tomorrow, we're going to talk all about the character, okay? So is that fair? So tomorrow, a lot more about what we're going to be pouring into the kids, how to pour it in, what are some great ways to really turn these kids into amazing. Because I just am so excited. The potential in every single one of your kids is absolutely incredible if we can get them under control and boundaried and filled with great character. Amen? Okay, so let's talk about what is a boundary. What is a boundary? Now, a lot of my teaching here today and tomorrow is going to come out of a couple of books that I find to be, I think, the most amazing books on the planet. One is Boundaries with Kids. If you're not a reader, I'm going to turn you into a reader, okay? So, like I told you, this is not going to be a comprehensive seminar here. We're going to give you a lot of good stuff, but it's not going to be comprehensive. You're going to have to become a student of your child. And remember I told you this is more about you growing than your children growing, and as you grow, they will. So I just want to encourage you, if you don't think yourself as a reader, let's change that up, because that's really going to make the difference in your life in general. But Boundaries with Kids, amazing. The Boundaries writers here, Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, they have quite a series out. They have just boundaries in general. They have boundaries in marriage. They have boundaries in teenagers, boundaries in dating, boundaries. It's because boundaries are so vital for just human function. And as I'm talking about boundaries here, if you're looking at that going, boy, I don't get that, and boy, I struggle with boundaries, I really want to encourage you to get the books, read them, get a really good understanding. The other book that I'm really pushing here tonight is The Love and Logic. Has anybody ever heard of Love and Logic? Awesome. Well, this is what I love this. Love and Logic's been around since the 1970s, written by some doctors and that kind of thing. They have great influence even today in schools with teachers, and Love and Logic is taught all the time. It just seems like, I don't know, at least when my kids were little, I'd see Love and Logic coming through the schools quite often. So it's a very well-rounded, very well-foundationed teaching and way to raise kids. So, but the boundaries that I'm going to talk to you about right now comes out of this book. What is a boundary? A boundary is a fence. And I believe this is on your thing, so just underline as I'm going. A boundary is a fence, a limit, or a property line that defines and contains where I begin and you end. Where I begin and you end. So think about it as like your outside membrane of who you are. And people with boundary issues are people who, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but a boundary-issued person is someone who wants to be in control of everybody else, but not in control of themselves. A boundary-issued person does not have a clear definition of who they are and where I begin and what is important to me and what I'm responsible for and what I'm not responsible for. So a person who has difficulty with boundaries takes on all this crazy stuff about what they're, trying to fix and control and go and do when it's impossible to do all that, and they're not paying attention to what they need to be doing on the inside. Boundaries. Boundaries do something else. If you have a fence, I put my fence up all the way around our house. Fences do stuff. They keep things in and keep things out. What do fences keep in? Children. The good stuff. Wouldn't you say? Fences keep in the good stuff. One time we didn't have our fence, and my 2-year-old son wandered across the street into the neighbor's garage. She, not knowing, reached in and shut the garage door. And then I couldn't find him for like 30 minutes. It was the scariest 30 minutes of my life running around. Then I heard this little in her garage, Yeah, so I was like, get the fence up right now. I got to keep the good stuff in, okay? But it also keeps the bad stuff out. So by the time you have a teenager and you lovingly make their lunch and send them out the door to high school, the goal is that by the time they hit those high school doors, those middle school doors, they have some boundaries. Boundaries that say, this is what I am and this is what I am not. Boundaries that say, you can come around me and smoke your weed, but that's kind of not for me. I have a boundary. Those are the kinds of kids that we're trying to grow. But those boundaries aren't just going to happen. Those boundaries have to be planted and encouraged and built and modeled and shown all through their younger years, so that the day they, go out on a date with, my daughter goes on a date with a guy, she will slap him if he tries to do anything. Amen? So that's what boundaries are for. They keep the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. Boundaries are very important. Boundaries say that I am responsible for me. Are there more underliners that I missed there, blanks? They protect character and values, sorry. So I was just describing. So that bullet point, it says, I am responsible for me and only me when it comes to boundaries, okay? Now, obviously, there's times where you're responsible for your little sister. Don't let them get, I understand that. But in general, in life, I am responsible for me. I am. And I will be judged for how I have lived my life. Not how you've lived yours, but how I live my life. Okay? I am responsible for me. And then, do you have little bullet points after that? Okay, so those little ones are, I am responsible for my behavior. I am responsible for my attitudes. I'm responsible for my choices. And I'm responsible for my feelings. My behavior, attitudes, choices, and feelings are all on me. No one can make me. People can influence me, but I ultimately make my choice on all four of those items. Same with your kids. The next bullet point says that I cannot control you. So, number one main parenting point here tonight is you cannot control your children. Who's been trying to control their children? You've been trying to control your kids? Who's been trying to control your kids? Raise your hands up really high. You've been trying to control your kids? Me too. And you know what? It is impossible. Look at your neighbor and say, forget it. You cannot control them. You cannot. And if you try to control them, you are going to get in a power struggle. Everybody say power struggle. Do you ever win power struggles? Not usually. So here tonight and over this parenting seminar, I'm not going to teach you how to control your children. Okay? Because you can't. And when I realized that, when I heard that, when I read that, I'm like, are you kidding me? I have been trying for years to do something that's impossible. No wonder I'm exhausted. No wonder I'm mad, angry, and frustrated. I can't control them, okay? I can't control them. But your next bullet point down does tell you, I'm going to tell you what you can do. You can create an environment that encourages certain behavior and discourages other behavior and allows your child to choose. You can create an environment. Remember that picture of that kid that's all kind of out of control and the mom's going, or the dad or the parent? That's what you're doing when you create an environment that gives them the option to change. You need to lay down, once again, I'm going to just say this, lay down the feeling and the need to control your children. All you can do, because every human being is born with a God-given free will. They can choose anything they want, just like you have the opportunity to choose right or choose wrong. I can get up tomorrow and go out, buy heroin, and start smoking it if I want to tomorrow and not come here. I have that free will choice. I have been given a choice. Your children, as cute and incredible as they are a free will agent, and you cannot control them. That's where wonderful parenting abilities and strength and wisdom and knowledge comes in, to create an environment that you can surround them with so that you can begin to influence those choices. And you're going to teach them a couple of things. You're going to teach them some very important things. And I want you to write this down at the very bottom of your thing. I want you to teach them that if they choose well, everybody write choose well, then a little equal sign, live well. Choose well, live well. Easy, right? Oh, but so many families and so many times raising our kids, we don't do that. It's simple. It's not rocket science. Choose well, live well. That's how life is, right? Tomorrow morning, if you get up and make really good choices, you're probably going to live pretty good during the day. But if tomorrow morning you wake up and you want to punch everyone and you want to, you're probably not going to live very well. So the next line underneath that is choose bad, live bad. Choose bad, live bad. Now what happens so often in our home when I was starting out with this parenting, that I was so tempted that if the child chose bad, to still let them live good. I love them. I don't want them to suffer. I am an abundant mother. I can make it all better. So, honey, please don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I really rather you not do that. But come on, let's keep living well, because I have the power to help you live well. And what I was teaching them was something that is a lie from the pit. Because when they leave me, real world works, live well, or choose well, live well, choose bad, live bad. So I want to really, really challenge you that your world in your home, your relationship with your children really reflects the real world. And it actually reflects our relationship with God and how God has set this whole thing up. As we choose well, there are good things that come our way. But if we choose bad, bad things come our way. And for some parents, that's very, very, very hard to do. It makes you feel like you don't love them. It makes you feel mean. It makes you feel like you're not cool. Who wants to be the cool parent? Everybody loves them, right? It makes you feel afraid. It makes you remember the abuses you suffered. There's all sorts of things we're going to talk about that. But you have to remember, we have to parent our children in reality. Because someday you won't be there to make it all better. Someday you won't be there to cushion all their troubles. Unless you want to be. There's some parents in our neighborhood that still have 30-year-olds living at home. They're not working and they're eating and playing video games. I suppose if you like that, then just not care what they choose and keep giving them good. I sound horrible, don't I? Diabolical mom here. I went through a hard time. This really came, I should have brought my journal. When my kids were young, we were going through a difficult time in my personal family, my own siblings with my own mother. And there was broken relationship, and siblings were not liking my mom, and being very mean and breaking relationship and a lot of accusation and when we this and you did that and blah, 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 blah. And there was all this breaking of relationship. And I'm looking at my little 5-year-old daughter, 7-year-old daughter, and my kids, who is very, very, very strong-willed, hardly ever made a good choice for many years. If you know what I'm talking about. Those kinds of kids who have to try everything, and do you really mean that, Mom? And I remember crying, and it's in my journal. There's little teardrops of, I want you to love me so bad. But the problem is I want to love you. And I won't love you if you keep living like this, so I'm going to have to be mean. But I hope that you understand that my meanness is my love for you, to break every wrong thing off of you so that you can live well. So that's going to speak to some of you here because some of you are compassion driven. You can't be. Yes, you can be. Yes, we love our kids, but we cannot give up holding them to the right. Amen? Okay. All right. Turn the page in your thing. Your boundaries are full of love and freedom, responsibility, and self-control. Boundaries are a wonderful, wonderful thing. Boundary formation starts with external boundaries, like I was talking to you about. You as parent are external boundaries. I want you to think in your mind like you are guardrails, okay? So think in your mind that your child is in a little Mario Kart. Do they have Mario Kart video games still? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, they get in a little cart, you know. Okay, so that's your child is in a Mario Kart cart, and they have guardrails. Do these video games have guardrails still, or do they careen off the cliff and die? Okay. So maybe the story won't go well. But anyway, so guardrails. You are their, okay, now think reality, okay? Like they're up in the Italian mountains or whatever, and they're driving, and they're kind of fast, and they're fun. How many of you guys have fun, fast kids? Strong-willed, yeah, out there. You know, there's always those nice, quiet ones. I never had one. I don't know what they're like. But yeah, they're like, so they're going to be driving. You are the guardrail to keep them from falling off the cliff, right? And so boundaries are that guardrail, okay? So they hit that guardrail. That guardrail's got to hold, right? Or they're going to go over. You have to hold the line with your boundaries and with your consequences and with your parenting, or they will just hit that thing, push right through, and crash. Okay? So I want to put different mental pictures in you because so many parents have such a hard time being the guardrail because it's not fun. I don't like being the thing you bang into every time you want to do something wrong. But I am, that's my role for you. Hopefully, so after a while, they keep hitting that guardrail, and it kind of scratches their little baby bumper car, and it's kind of rough, and they got some bills to pay every time they hit, and it's not going to be nice. Hopefully, they start driving down the middle of the road, and then eventually they can go down roads that don't have guardrails, and they don't crash. You are the guardrail in their world. You are their boundary, okay? So just very quickly, and we're going to take a quick break. Clear boundaries. I am responsible for myself. If you are a person with very clear boundaries, you know for a fact that you are responsible for yourself. You can't blame anybody else. Under confused boundaries, you blame others for your circumstances. Okay? Now back over to clear boundaries. I must self-control. I have to take care of me. I have to get my rear out of bed. It's pretty funny. My son's finally gotten really good at turning on his alarm and getting up in the morning. And we left for Hawaii. Every morning in Hawaii, he slept in and missed school. Obviously, we have more boundaries to set. I must self-control. On the other side, they have no self-control. If your child is allowed to live, or you live with confused boundaries, you're going to have a tendency towards addictions, lazy, and being a reactive type person. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about what reactivity is. Next line down, a clear boundaried person knows for a fact that I can't control you or others. Have you ever been around a person that tries to control you? Okay, that's confused boundaries. Okay, that's not right. Okay, that's not clear boundaries. On the other side, it says, I want to control others. And I know it doesn't have the word either, but control others. A confused boundary works very, very hard to control others through guilt, passivity, anger, withdrawing love. Clear boundaries says, I own my feelings, attitudes, behaviors, thoughts, choices, desires, and values. In other words, you can't make me mad. I never want you. Try very hard to strike from your language from now. You make me mad. That's unclear boundaries. That's confused boundaries. No, you choose to get mad. you can potentially say, when you punch me, it makes me feel, I start feeling angry. That hurts me. That is painful to me. And sometimes I get angry. I choose to get angry. But we can never blame other people for our feelings. We have to be completely, utterly in control and own the feelings that we have. Some of you grew up in lousy homes. And it's hurt you. It's harmed you. It's been very, very hard on you. But I will tell you that the moment you decide that you own every feeling that you have, your behaviors, your actions, your desires, your attitudes, they're all yours. They are not your parents'. That is the day you will break free. Amen? A person with confused boundaries says, I'm a victim of my feelings. I punched you because you make me mad. It's not my fault. You did it. You made me mad. So when our children are acting in that way and saying those things, we have to remind them, no, I never made you punch anything. You chose that. That is your choice, your behavior. If you choose well, you're going to live well. But if you choose bad, then we got to deal with it. You're going to have to pay for that in some way, shape, or form. Right? So moving on, clear boundaries, loves on the basis of freedom, honesty, and confrontation. I love you, okay? I'm just going to say, Julie, if I have very clear boundaries, I would say to you, I love you. I love you, and I can allow you to make any choice you want, and I still love you. You can be horrible and awful. This is the kind of love that God calls us to. It's called agape love for one another. That's where we step out of judgment and we start, do you understand what I'm saying? So clear boundaries and the way we're going to raise our kids, our love for them is not based on their behavior. Our love for them never stops no matter what their behavior is. Somebody write that down. Your love, you can never withdraw love from your children when they do something wrong. And the thing that we're going to talk about so much is a word called empathy and love. And no matter what they do, we as parents who have very, very clear boundaries, they're never going to shake our love from them. Okay? So clear boundaries is based on freedom of choice, being very honest, and confronting. If you have confused boundaries, your love is based on control, deception, passivity, anger, giving love, withdrawing love. Does that make sense? Not good. Clear boundaries, confused boundaries. So we're going to finish up this session. I'm a few minutes over, but we did start late, so you got to give me a pass on that. But we're kind of ending on kind of a heavy note here because boundaries is so important with children, in parenting, in your own personal life, in your marriage, in every aspect. Being a person with clear boundaries, a person who owns their own attitudes. If you got a bad attitude, I'm sorry, whose fault is it? Whose choice is it? Man, that's hard. I'd love to blame you for my bad attitude. Oh, these kids, I'd love to, but I can't. It's all my choice. Right? Person with clear boundaries has control over themselves and no one else. I can't control you. Now I can create an environment that will completely encourage you to do what's right and make what's wrong hurt so bad so that you will begin to establish boundaries and self-control and living right and well on your own. But I can't control you. So then we're going to talk about, you better not be telling things like, sit down and eat. You can't make them eat. You're going to lose.
Thanks for joining us today for this episode of the Joel Wolfe Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the message. Don't forget to subscribe to receive more great content regularly, and join Joel online at joelwolfe.me, as well as on Facebook at facebook.com/author Joel Wolfe. Also, don't miss Joel's latest book, guiding you through your adventures in parenting, Courage in Chaos, which Dr. Kevin Lehman says inspires both the heart and the head in equal measure. It's available for purchase at joelwolfe.me. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, have a great day.